Hey everyone, Spazzy Dragon here, aka Syndromes, and welcome to part 3 of our Let's Play Dwarf Fortress tutorial. Now, again, this is going to be a play-along, so feel free to do exactly what I do, pause the video, and go back if you don't, if you've missed something. And something I'm going to quickly actually note is that because of the randomness nature, the random nature of how the world is generated, how everything else is happening, we're not actually going to be playing the same scenario, but hopefully I can, kind of go through the same actions that you can repeat on your world, and, hopefully this is going to be kind of simple for you. So, we're going to actually do something before that. As I already mentioned, one of the biggest starting issues for many players is the interface in the game. We're going to see why in a moment. But just to make things a little bit more simple, we're going to go for accessories, ease of access, and for the on-screen keyboard over here. So the reason for this is that I can show you exactly what I'm pressing, and hopefully this is going to make things a little bit easier for both you and me. We're going to adjust the size of this a little bit later if we need to. So, let's finally launch the frickin' game. We're going to use the launcher, obviously. And for this first episode, we are going to change one thing. In the previous episode, we already changed the aquifers to no. We also set that there's no invaders. But now, we are actually going to set our population cap to 10 dwarves. So that is going to be the soft population cap, and we're also going to set the strict population cap. Now, one thing is quickly need to be noted. With a population cap of 10, you wouldn't get any invaders anyway, because the game thinks you are still way too early into the game, and it's not going to throw too much junk at you. So we're going to actually switch this to 10 just to make things a little bit less confusing and slowly ease our way into the game itself. So, with that in mind, let's launch the game. Ah, yes. Many people who play Dwarf Fortress love this theme, but quite frankly, I do not. So we're going to mute the game. The game actually doesn't really have a lot of sounds unless you are running things like Sound Sense, which adds a lot of sounds to the game. We're not running it, so we don't need to worry about that. Let's close the launcher right now, make the game a little bit bigger like this, and I'm going to quickly hide this thing for a bit. So, welcome to the main menu. From here you can actually start off the game itself. Now, something you might want to see is that the overall menus, just like in any other game, are going to be moved around by your directional keys. So when I mean directional keys, I obviously mean these keys, right? Other menus in game are actually going to be a little bit different. So actually, we also want to use the numeric keypad, because this is something that we will actually... You are going to use the numeric keypad in game a lot, so if you happen to be running this on a netbook, which doesn't actually have a numeric keypad, things are going to be a little bit more difficult for you. Anyway, as already said, you don't really use your mouse a lot in this game. I'm going to be mostly using this mouse to point out something, so make sure that you're actually running this video in full screen. And let's see. So, we're going to start off with selecting the Create New World option, and we're going to just press enter, and it's going to load the game itself. So this is the introduction screen. So, welcome to the alpha of Dwarf Fortress, and by the way, it's an alpha for many years now. As there have been some time between releases, instability is to be expected, report crashes, hangs, lags, and blah blah blah, right? And all we need to do here is press escape to continue. And we're going to do that. We're actually going to do it like this. We're going to press escape to continue. And this is where the fun begins. Before we can actually dive into the fort building thing and the game itself, we actually need to make a game world. Over here we have parameters, starting from smaller to larger. For many things about the game world that we're about to create. So first of all, the world size. This is pretty much simple. It's the size of your continent. The bigger the continent, the more civilizations there are, the more places there are, the more room there is to expand to. Obviously, your fort takes a tiny amount of space compared to even the smallest world size, but at the same time, this means that you have either more allies with you or more enemies around you. And technically, people change this most of all because of what computer they're running. So the smaller the weaker your computer is, the smaller you want the world size, because the game is actually going to generate it. So the bigger the size of the world, the longer it's actually going to take for you to generate. So you can change this by using the arrow keys like this. And for the sake of this tutorial, we're going to use Pocket World. Next, we're going to click down. We're going to go to History. Now, what is going to happen after we select all of these stats is that the game is going to generate the world, right? The history is the amount of years it is going, in-game years that it is going to generate. So the longer the history you generate, the more things are added, the more civilizations are added. There's a chance that some civilizations might actually crumble and fade into the history. History also allows other forts to be simulated at the same time. So obviously you're not the only dwarf setting out from the mountain home. There's other forts and installations around the world as well. And this also allows them to rise, to fall, and some of the migrants you might end up getting in the late game might actually come from many of those fortresses, and you might actually get some really skilled dwarves out of it. So what we're going to do, we're going to leave it at short. It's not going to be too taxing, even on very low-end systems. And it's just going to get us a little bit more stuff. At the same time, though, if you leave this history longer than very short, it also makes things like wild beasts and mega beasts like titans, for example. And the more time passes, the more powerful they become. So if you leave it at very, very long, you might end up with a titan coming into your land, and they have a kill streak of a few thousand. So, that's bad. And so we're just going to leave it at short. Let's go down. Number of civilizations. That is exactly what it sounds. Apart from the dwarves that you are going to play, there's also other civilizations such as humans. There's kobolds, there's elves. You can piss all of those civilizations off, by the way, if you want to. But let's just keep that to medium, just for the sake of simplicity. Maximum amount of sites. So these are the establishments, like towns and cities, that are going to be generated when you generate the history. We're going to leave that at medium, so we can make sure that many of the civilizations are not going to die out. The less sites you place over here, the more of a chance that the civilizations that you start off with all the civilizations, the less sites means that these civilizations are much rarer known to expand, so it means there's a bigger chance that they're going to, crumble. So we're going to leave that. Next, number of beasts. So these are the mega beasts I was talking about. You have titans, demons, and all sorts of... Basically, these are boss creatures. And depending on the setting that you place it at, the game will start off with X amount of them. And if you want to see the exact numbers, you probably want to go to the Wikipedia. We're going to set it to medium because it doesn't matter, because we already set the invaders to off. Now, I might be mistaken here, because I really think that the intruders setting that we turned off actually has no impact on the beasts, but I could be wrong. So, secondly, natural savagery. When you embark on a site, and yes, I keep saying that, and if you're new to Dwarf Fortress, it doesn't mean anything to you, but if you embark on some sort of territory, there's always some sort of natural beasts around. You have maybe tigers, you have lions, you have some sort of ungodly beasts from the natural side of things. And this is basically a setting to show you how hostile the game itself is, how hostile the surroundings are. We're gonna make it to medium so I can show you some of them. Hopefully they're going to be around for me to show you how the combat works, for example. And basically, we're not gonna touch this. And last but not least, mineral occurrence. So what this means is that this setting makes it how easy it is to find resources. You have many types of resources. You have gems, you have metal ores, you have stuff like that. So this setting basically means how abundant they are in the location of your fortress. Now, I would actually usually place it on rare just to make it a little bit more of a challenge, but considering this is our first game together, we're going to leave it at sparse. It means that there's not too many of them, so basically you can't just make a hole and just hit a ore vein or something like on the first attempt. But this is going to balance a little bit of exploration and at the same time a little bit of effort, right? And okay, and that's pretty much it. So again, pick the pocket, history short, everything else in the middle. So after this, as you can see, we need to press Y to go and generate the game with these settings. And this is the game world. So this particular image is in ASCII, mainly because it's easier actually to understand this image. So what happened what happened just now? The game did the thing. It generated the world for us. This is our continent. You have the sea around it, which is blue. There's a little bit of ice over here. So the green parts are obviously the green hills, and these little spikes are obviously the mountains. So it's a nice, small, little island for us. It's simulated the game for 125 in-game years, during which 520 entities died, and 5,013 events happened. If you want to see what kind of events happen, there is a way to do that. I'm not going to cover it in this particular video. Anyway, we're going to move this a little bit over here so we can see what is down here. And all we need to do is either to accept or abort if you want to re-roll this region. So we're just going to do that. We're going to press enter. We're going to accept this. And now it's going to bring us back to the title menu. Let me just move this back a little bit over here. And we can finally start playing. So the game itself has 3 play modes. We have the original Dwarf Fortress, we have the Adventure, which is kind of like a roguelike game. It's really fun in by itself, by the way, and I probably will kind of cover it a little bit later. I'm not too good with the Adventure mode. And then there's Legends. As I already said, when the world gets generated, there is actually a lot of stuff happening. You can use this particular mode to see just what happened. But right now, we're going to focus on Dwarf Fortress, and we are going to press enter and load up our region. And this is where we're going to make a cut in our video. In the next one, we are going to talk about how to embark on a site, how to prepare for, your first steps into the actual gameplay, and yeah, I'm gonna see you guys a little bit later. This was Spazzy, aka Spazzy Dragon, aka Syndromes, and I'll see you in the next video.